Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac, Jack, and Jim's This Week in Sports. Today, two-time Super Bowl Dallas Cowboy legend Jim Jeffcoat won't be joining us as he is with his whole family getting together to celebrate his mother's birthday and Mother's Day in one day. I think his mom's birthday, Jack, was on Thursday. So, what's really cool, Jack, what I've learned about a lot of former sports, players, athletes, they're very family oriented. They're very friend oriented. I mean, they're pretty loyal to their friends and family. And I talked to Jim earlier this week, and of course, he texted me a couple stories about his mom, which were very amusing. And so happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. The people that are following, that watch later from Mac and Jack and Northeast Streaming Sports. Jack, I'm a little old school, right? You know that. And of course, so was my dad. And I had a kind of a special relationship with my dad. We were kind of friends. I mean, I respect him as my father, of course, or I would get a butt whipping. But we became very, very good friends. And there's one thing, though, that I've seen, not just, that I did, but I've seen from even boys today. When you don't feel well, it's all about mom, right? You're all hanging all over mom. Dad kind of takes his back seat when a young son or young boy isn't feeling well. It's the same thing with of course, the daughters. But it's just crazy how, when you're not feeling well, that mom is the first person you turn to. And no matter how much of a hard time I gave my mom, and I did, Jack, I drove her out of her mind. I was one of those boys. If anybody ever bothered my mom, I was like an attack dog. You didn't bother my mom, right? So I don't know about you, but that's the type of relationship I had with my mom, Jack.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it's a special day, really, for mothers all over. My mother passed away some years ago, but I realized after she had passed on, she loved me more than anyone else in the world. So I would never quite have that again. As much as my wife loves me, she loves our daughters more. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And that's the way I really want it. And I have a great relationship with my wife. But with my mother, I always knew like I was number one, no matter what. It drove my father a little crazy, but that's just the way it was. So in a certain sense, after she passed, my father told me, you lost your best friend. And he was telling the truth.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like I said, Jack, my father would bring me to work. He'd bring me to wherever he's going. He'd show me how to work on a car, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But when it came down to it, I mean, when I wasn't feeling well or I had a problem or something like that, my mom was always there for me. So mine passed away a few years ago too. Miss her a lot. But anyway, so I want to thank Pags, you and Doc for filling in for me yesterday. Some of you people watching know that I ended up in the emergency room. I have a real problem with my hernias. I didn't get it fixed yet. I'm still in a little pain, but I'll make it. I'll get that operated on as soon as I can. I'd like to apologize to Jason Gonzalez because he was supposed to come on the show yesterday and give us his Kentucky Derby outlook. He knows a lot about the Kentucky Derby, but switching me to Pags for host kind of left him out.
Like a writer for the Louisville Courier-Journal.
Yeah, kind of left him out in the cold. So maybe if we can, we'll try to get Jason in here, this upcoming week. We'll talk a little recap of the Derby as we'll get to in detail when Keith Angle comes on. So I want to thank you.
Well, we have in 3 weeks or so, we have the Belmont Stakes, I believe. Yeah. So, right. So him coming in before that would be a nice, lead cool, in, right? And then go back and review the Derby as well.
Yeah, I think so too. So we'll get Jason on here if he's willing to come on. So anyway,
you might not want to come on after the way you stiffed him, Mac. I mean, don't assume. I mean, you left him hanging. And
well, I was in touch with him, I tried everything I could to get him on, but of course, when you change hosts and you change shows, a lot of things kind of get lost in the shuffle. You almost didn't make it in. So yes, Rick, I'm doing okay. I still got to get some things done. Yeah, Doc, listen, Dr. Paul is one of the most thoughtful hosts we have on Northeast Streaming Sports. He does a Yankee show called Start Spreading the News, and him and EJ Fagan, Dr. Fagan, do an incredible job on that show. Well thought out. Dr. Paul is becoming quite the author. It's got a couple of books already done. He's working on another one, getting awards. So anytime we can get Dr. Paul on, we love having him on because he's very, very.
No, Mac, he has a great capacity to listen.
Yes.
I mean, I wish I had that strong a capacity where I always didn't have to come in and give my view. He'll sit back. He'll wait until we exhaust ourselves, till we punch ourselves out.
Right,
He'll rope us, and then we'll be exhausted getting our viewpoints across. And then he comes in with clear, concise, knowledgeable viewpoints.
Yes, very, very, very good. And of course, Pags is the Philly sports guy. And if you see him as a Philly sports guy, he's a total raving crazy man. But when he's in the studio, the man, again, well thought out, knows a lot about sports, and did a great job hosting the debate show yesterday. So, we're going to cover the Kentucky Derby. We're going to talk about the NHL. We're going to talk about the NBA, and all that good stuff, MLB. But first, I want to talk a little bit about something that to me, is incredible, Jack. I want to talk a little bit about Ohtani and the performance he had against the Boston Red Sox. I mean, what he strike out 11, 12 Boston Red Sox batters. He hit the ball so hard off the Green Monster and knocked his number off the Green Monster. And I don't believe in ghosts and spirits, but my God, I mean, I had to pause. It was Babe Ruth out there somewhere. I mean, Babe Ruth, of course, a great pitcher for the Red Sox, and pitched a little for the Yankees. The home run leader back in his era, the King, and Ohtani is doing something even Ruth really didn't do, except for when he played with Boston. And that's hit home runs, strike out batters, pitch well, play the field, right field like Babe Ruth did. I mean, I don't know about you, Jack, but it kind of was a little eerie when I watched that performance.
Well, you're giving the Babe Ruth analogy. If there's a higher source, that he's in the Babe's body or whatever. I'm just going to quickly say the 1977 World Series, the sixth and deciding game when the Yankees beat the Dodgers, and Reggie Jackson hit 3 homers. He was playing the Babe's position, and the first baseman, Chris Chambliss, hit a homer. He was playing Lou Gehrig's position. Oh. That was the 50th anniversary of when the Yankees won in 1927, when they won in 1977. So that higher type source thing did come to my mind. When it comes to Ohtani, I'm going to tell you what I think of Mac. I think of Little League. Believe it or not, Little League. Remember when we played Little League ball, when any kid played Little League ball, your best player did everything. Your best player, he pitched. He played the outfield. He played every position. And that's what reminds me of Ohtani. He plays with joy. He plays like a little leaguer. You get the feeling he wants to be in the lineup all the time. If they put him at second base, I think he would gleefully run to second base. He'd run to shortstop with a smile on his face and say, "Let me try this. I can play shortstop." He plays with the joy of a little leaguer. And I get the feeling also when Ohtani gets to the ballpark, if they say this game is postponed because of rain, his day is ruined. I think he can't wait to get to the ballpark because he loves playing the game. The way we did as little leaguers, when we were told the game was postponed, we were down. We'd be in school all day. We couldn't wait for school to end so we could play our game.
Yeah, Jack, I agree with 100% with everything you said. I mean, the man truly enjoys every part of the game. And, it's just, to me, I know if we'll see another one like this, maybe so. Maybe because he started it again. Maybe we see more of these type of players. But, man, what a performance. Backstage right now, we have Keith Engel from TGI Sports Talk. has a great show, great interviews, talks about a lot of stuff in sports, covers almost anything. And Keith was out there posting some of things about Kentucky Derby. I think he was into it. So we want to bring him on, and I want to talk to him a little bit about his picks. I mean, at least mine finished fourth or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what the heck he was thinking. But we're going to bring him on and talk about the Kentucky Derby with Keith. This is the first, folks. So let's bring him up.
Good morning, guys. Matt, I hope you're feeling better.
I mean, I'm hanging in there, Keith. I still got a lot of stuff to do, but at least I'm not down at the hospital, which is
well. If you want a Giants, Mac, with Bill Parcells coaching, you'd either have to suit up and practice, so he wouldn't want you around.
Right. He'd send me home. He sure would.
Yeah.
And at this point, Jack, I would thank him. I would be like, "Thank you, Coach Parcells. I gotta get home." Keith. So listen to me. This was the most in-depth coverage of the Derby I've ever seen, right? The networks took it over. They had pre-races. They had stories on the owners, on the jockeys, on the horses. It seemed to me like an NFL presentation, right? In a way. I mean, they did an unbelievable job.
Yeah, NBC for years has been doing this, and actually, I don't know if they did a lot of it yesterday, but they would even show races, leading up to the Derby. But the in-depth stories and some of the crazy outfits that people are in and the hats, it's always fun. It's all that pomp and circumstance that makes the Derby kind of what it is. It's a unique event. It wasn't the most perfect day down there. It looked kind of cold. I never did hear the temperature, but
it's in the 60s, I heard.
Yeah, it looked cold. When I was watching the Outriders bring the horses out, all of them were kind of bundled up a little bit. So anyway, it's a great event. For something that happens once a year for 2 minutes. They do some great coverage and make it interesting at the same time. I mean, you don't get bored during that. They had to be on for 4 hours yesterday, it seemed like.
I mean, even my wife, Linda, was up near the TV picking horses during the other races. Her 4 she picked in the Kentucky Derby didn't do too well, but something, nobody expected what happened. Anyway, I don't care if somebody comes on the air today and says, "Yeah, I picked."
Exactly.
If anybody says that, I'll call them right to their face a liar.
Listen, there'll be people with winning tickets, but they didn't take the ticket because they thought the horse would win. They just wanted to make a bunch of money if something crazy happened.
I'm going to tell you, it was pretty funny. I picked Happy Jack to win. With that name, how could I not? It was a 22-1 underdog. Right before the race began, Happy Jack wouldn't get in the gate. They had to force Happy Jack in the gate. And my wife is watching with myself, and we're cracking up laughing because this horse didn't want to run. And then at the last moment, they forced the horse into the gate. And, of course, Happy Jack didn't do too well.
Max says that's kind of what happens with you every morning. He's got to
I'm kind of forced. Well, I forced myself to do it,
Right. So anyway, it was, to me, listen, all through my life, I'm not a big horse racing fan. I don't follow a lot. But when a race comes on, for some reason, I'm mesmerized. If I'm walking by the TV and the race is on, I'll stop and watch it. It's so much excitement and so little time. And just to watch these horses run at, 40 plus miles an hour, it's just incredible. I mean, and Keith?
I do. And again, it may be, and again, the Super Bowl gets the same kind of casual fan viewership, but I don't know if any event, I should say, gets the kind of casual viewership and people involved in betting money and watching for 4 hours than the Kentucky Derby. I just think it's a one of a kind event in this country today. And it's a spectacle that's a lot of fun. I used to follow horse racing a lot closer than I do. But I still get into the Triple Crown races and certainly the Derby more than any. And this was a wide open race. And you saw yesterday what can happen in a year like this. So.
Yeah, when this horse is bought for $30,000, is ready to be, put to pasture, and they put him in a week before the Derby, and all of a sudden,
a week before Friday, he was not in the field on Friday morning. This horse.
So there you go. And I mean, listen, for that to happen was just, again, if I ever hear anybody say, "Yeah, I picked him," I just call them a liar to their face. I mean, as you said, 79-1 is a lot of odds, and maybe somebody throws,
there could be some people up here in the capital region that did legitimately make wagers, because his sire is a horse called Keen Ice, who's owned by some well, they're businessmen that run horses. Some of the same group of people that had Funny Side back in the day. If you go back, and I don't know, gosh, we're probably talking 25 years ago now with Funny Side. He was a local Albany area, Saratoga area horse, and this horse was sired by a horse that was and he ran in the Derby a couple of years ago. Keen Ice didn't do very well, but he had some big races, and there's a local flavor to this win up here in our area, so that brings another dimension to it as well.
The way the race unfolded, they went out at a really fast pace, and it's like Rich Strike picked up pieces at the end, laid back just enough, and then was able to come in from the inside lane. I mean, why such a blistering pace like that? Were the horses? Was anyone trying to prove anything in particular?
Well, I think some of the post positions play a lot of play into that a lot. The horses on the inside, and I think Epicenter was stuck on the inside there, and he went to the front early. But again, that kind of pace, and some of the horses like Messier and the other favorites, just again, it's a pace that they could not keep up. I mean, my horse kind of hung in there for a little while, and then about 8 horses went by him in about 3 seconds. But this is the kind of when you get a pace like this, a crazy pace that nobody's really expecting. That's when you get these crazy things. And he got a great ride from his jockey as well. Saved ground all the way. If you watch a replay of the race, he nearly gets blocked at the rail before the 16th pole, and he somehow almost pulls up, not to a complete stop, but pulls up and goes around him, and still has plenty of left to run down the leaders. And it was an impressive ride, and just an impressive day for a horse that, as we said, took a scratch on Friday morning to get in this field at all.
Yeah, it's very true. So what was funny to me and was interesting after the race, how Strike decided he's going to bite the hell out of the pony.
My gosh.
Oh, what was that about? Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that ever.
And Mike, the guy that's running, I mean, he's trying to stop him. He's biting him too. That horse is nuts. I mean, they tried everything they could to stop him from biting that little pony. I guess
I've seen it happen, Mac, but not like all the way down the backstretch coming back.
That scared the heck out of me.
I thought something bad could happen there. That horse was worked up, and I don't know if it was a filly and there was something else going on there. I just don't know what the deal was, and I probably ought to look into it a little bit more today. But I've never seen. I mean, he was really going after him. It looked like my 2 cats wrestling and trying to kill each other in the living room.
I was going to say that pony didn't want. No, he wouldn't wrestle nothing. That pony wanted nothing to do with.
He wanted an ear. He looked like Mike Tyson going after Holyfield.
I mean, I kept thinking, let him go. Just let the horse go. Why are you standing there, keep holding on to this guy while he's biting you and biting the horse? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they were worried about the horse getting away too. I mean, that's why they had the outriders in the first place. But
I wouldn't care if I was that guy and that horse is biting me. Go. See you later, buddy. It's fine.
Well, did you see the outrider? He kept putting his hand out there. I was afraid he was going to get his arm ripped off for crying out loud.
He bit him too. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, that horse is ornery, man. Oh my God! So
we might have to suspend that horse for.
Suspend the horse for the.
Suspend the horse. Yeah.
It'll be a nice change in horse racing that the horses get suspended and not the trainers.
Yes, you can't race in the form. So let's spin it off into the Yankees a little bit. I mean, they're 18-7. The last game they played was a little tough loss to Tampa Bay 2-1. They got a double header coming up.
Yeah,
Toronto.
Sorry, Toronto. Thank you. But they got a doubleheader coming up today against Texas. The thing I am impressed with the Yankees, and I'm impressed with a few things, is, as I told you, is the bench. Now, last year, if the Yankees were having a doubleheader, I could almost guarantee, they're going to at least at the most split with this team because all the starters are going to come in, and then he's going to put whoever else out there. This year, Keith, besides having the options of rotating defensive players in, pinch runners, and switching positions, they have a bench where they can actually go out and give the Texas Rangers, if they start their starting team, a little bit of a problem. So what do you think? Do you think the Yankees sweep this doubleheader today, or do you think it's just the odds are no?
Well, it's always hard to sweep a doubleheader, and the Yankees got a tough schedule coming up because of these 2 rainouts the last couple of days, and it's unfortunate too with the momentum they have going. You don't want to have those 2 days off. That's when you don't want them, right? But I think the Rangers aren't playing that well. I think they might have actually swept the Phillies recently, but to make their record a little better. But I don't think the Rangers have near the talent the Yankees have, obviously. As you mentioned, the bench certainly helps on days like today. And the fact that, while he's not really a bench player, but DJ can move all over the infield. You got Marwa Gonzalez, who can play almost everywhere on the field, it seems. And, that type of thing helps. And it's a short bench, too. There's only – and I'm not sure with the moves that they made last week, but last I remember there was 3 guys. That's all they're carrying on the bench is 3 guys. So the bench is important in these doubleheaders, and it'll be important coming up because they're not going to have any off days for a while now.
Very true. Is this the year where they start cutting back on relievers, Keith? I think the Yankees got like 16. I think there's so many relievers you can carry.
Yeah.
Is it this year or next year they do that?
Well, it's this year, but it's because with the shortened spring training, they let the teams carry more guys in the beginning. They had to cut back. I think it was they could have 28, I think, if I'm not mistaken, to start the season. They had to go back to 26 here last week. They allowed the teams to carry up to 16 pitchers, which is, again, why the Yankees only had 3 bench players. But now I think they were supposed to have to go to no more than 13 pitchers with this cut down, and Major League Baseball allowed it to go to 14. So I'm not sure yet whether they're going to keep it there for the rest of the season or drop it back to 13. 13 is still a lot, historically, and it's how the game's played today, right? Because every game's got 4 or 5 pitchers in it. Years ago, teams didn't carry 13 pitchers. They carried 9 or 10 pitchers. That was all they carried. But with today's game, you gotta, if your starters are only going to throw 80 pitches, and you're going to need guys every single night. You can't go with 10 pitchers or even 11 or 12. You can't make it through the year.
Is this going to be a breakout year for Michael King, whereby next season he could assume the role of Yankee closer if Chapman falters, if Chapman's not back?
He could. He's obviously pitching very well this year. He'd had stretches before this where he was very good, and he's been a top prospect. He was a starting prospect for a long time, and who knows? Depending on the Yankee bullpen situation going forward after this year, they could stretch him back out for the rotation. But this kid seems to have found his niche in the bullpen, and I don't know that I would mess with that. He'll definitely be an integral part of this bullpen and a potential candidate to close once Chapman is no longer in pinstripes for sure. I like the kid a lot. I like his makeup. I like everything about him.
Great guy, very good pitcher.
Talking about young Yankee pitchers, Schmidt pitched very, very well in the early season, and he got caught up in the numbers game last week. He was one of the guys the Yankees had to ship out, but you haven't seen the last of him, and he'll most likely be a starter at some point. But he's pitched well out of that bullpen early in the year too.
Yeah, but Schmidt was supposed to be kind of like a phenom, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. They're kind of waiting on him to develop a little more. I didn't like him being sent down because he certainly had pitched well enough to stay.
He did. They had to make some tough decisions, though. And, again, he's not going to be there long. He'll be back, Dick. He'll be back. He's pitched very well, and he's had some injuries that have derailed him a little bit from his progress the last few years. I really thought he'd be in the rotation by this point in time, a couple of years ago, but different factors have kind of derailed that a little bit.
Whatever happened to Debbie Garcia?
Debbie's still in the minor leagues. He could be a factor here at some point, but with this Yankee pitching staff, you need to have a lot of starters.
He was a Yankees prize prospect 2-3 years ago, and it just hasn't worked out.
I still think like Schmidt and even King, I think were higher rated prospects than Debbie. He came up and had a good start to his career, and look, he's a journeyman. He can go out there and give you some innings, but he's never going to be a top 3 starter, I don't think, anywhere in the major leagues. But he's a valuable guy to have around depth-wise.
Yeah, I don't think so either, Keith. A quick note on the Patriots. The Pats cut the vine. I hope I'm saying this right. Ozigbo. After failing a physical, he had ankle injury last year, played a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but quite a few games for you guys. So I mean, the Patriots have got to get their linebackers in order. It's too bad. The kid seemed like when he played, he was pretty good. So, any information you want to give us before you check out about the Patriots? What's going on over there?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of information on that particular situation. I mean, but the linebacker situation overall is something that, is a bit of a concern because it was something we thought they'd address in the draft, and they really made one pick. So other than that, and picking up the kid from Wilson from Cleveland, who's got some potential, and they like what he can bring to the field. This is a position that they have to address because, Hightower's gone, Van Noy's gone. They want to get quicker, and right now they haven't gotten anything because they haven't really made that many moves in this area. So, big place the Patriots have to figure out here.
I agree. So, Keith, have a great Sunday. Keith will be on it with his show in a little bit, folks. Check out TGI Sports Talk, one of the better shows on Northeast Streaming Sports. He always does a great job. Keith, thanks for stopping in, my friend.
Thanks for having me, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Yes, thank you. You too, Keith. All right, folks, we'll let Keith go. And backstage right now, we got one of my favorite commentators, analysis guys. He's all over stuff. I gave him a couple different things to do because I know Robert, what he's good at, right? Robert will break the biggest stories. He loves the NFL, likes the NBA a little bit. But Robert, I've never heard him talk about boxing, Jack. So I said, hey, listen, Robert,
He's smart, that's why.
He's smart, is that why? Yeah. So I wanted to see what Robert would do with last night's fight. And of course, you know a lot about boxing more than most people. So I thought it'd be interesting to have him on and talk a little about Bivol and Canelo. Good fight, very good fight. I mean, Bivol beat him in a 12-round decision, but he was just a little bit too much for Canelo. So let's bring up Robert Butler from Sports Scope, guys. One of the best, another one of the better commentators we have on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey, morning, guys.
How you doing?
Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just says yeah. So Robert, of course, that's all right. Like I said, Jim is not in today. He's with his mom, celebrating Mother's Day and her birthday. So it's just me and Jack today to irritate you a little bit, Robert. So in boxing last night, Canelo, the best pound for pound boxer, is what everybody said, goes up to fight Bivol at light heavyweight. Some people thought he could beat Bivol. And a lot of people thought he beat Bivol. Bivol ends up winning. I heard there might be a rematch, a bunch of stuff. What are your thoughts on the fight last night, Robert?
Well, I read it was a major upset. He was a plus 400 to win that fight. So somebody made some money. Somebody probably threw some money on the underdog. It wasn't as big as the Kentucky Derby upset there. That was a huge 80-1 odds. So from that perspective, Canelo's last loss, from what I understand, was to Floyd Mayweather. Guys, Twitter was trending this morning, Floyd Mayweather. And I'm a casual observer. Jack is your expert. I like to give you guys a different take. And that's why I'm sure that's why you wanted me to ask. So boxing. My thing is, boxing is not like the other sports. There is no preseason, regular season. There's no playoffs. I don't even think it's got a commissioner. So my thing is,
boxing is one of the more disorganized sports. Let's just leave it at that and move forward.
Yeah. Yes. So my point is, it's an event sport. I would love to see this guy Bivol bait Floyd Mayweather. A casual guy like me to come out of retirement, a casual guy like me would pay the money. It would be good for the sport. Right. I paid money to see Wilder and Fury back in February before COVID hit of 2020. And I thought that was a great fight, great event. And I would love to see him. Plus, Floyd Mayweather.
It can happen, Rob. Let me cut in. Let me tell you why it just can happen on two accounts. Floyd Mayweather loves his 50-0 record. He doesn't want to jeopardize it by having an official loss. That's why he's fighting exhibitions. But let's say in the unlikely event he does make a comeback, a legitimate comeback where his record could be put in jeopardy. Bivol is a light heavyweight, and Floyd Mayweather is a welterweight, and not a big welterweight at that. So he would have to jump up from middleweight to super middleweight to light heavyweight. It's like 3 divisions.
Yeah.
And he would try to force Bivol to lose so much weight to make it happen. It's just not viable quite with the weight, with the weight differences for it to happen. I know on the surface you figure, well, Floyd fought Canelo and Canelo fought Bivol. So you're connecting the dots, feeling based on that they can meet. But logically speaking, that wouldn't quite happen. And also Canelo had a rematch clause put in the contract. You could do that when you're as big as Canelo. And he says he's going to exercise the rematch clause with Bivol, so they're actually going to do it again.
Do you think maybe they would possibly do it as an exhibition? Exhibition, that word always.
Mayweather and Bivol? Yeah. No one would have any interest. I mean, if Mayweather was going to do an exhibition against an elite fighter, they'd want to see him against Canelo because they think it could get real in there. They couldn't see him just playing around. Mayweather's going to fight these nonsensical exhibitions like against Logan Paul, these YouTube guys. And Mayweather wants to be relevant and he wants to make money. And that's the safest way of doing it, having these exhibitions, because if by some chance he should, I don't want to use the word lose during an exhibition, but not perform well when most people think he did lose, it won't go on his record officially. It's considered it's the equivalent of team sports, an exhibition game. Let's say the Patriots had beaten the Giants in the Super Bowl and had the unbeaten season. No one remembers what they did in the exhibition season, but let's say they lost an exhibition game during that year. No one would say, well, the Patriots weren't unbeaten that year. That would basically be the equivalent of it. But I'm going to tell you, Canelo is like the biggest, boxer in the sport. So loss like that kind of has repercussions. And also Canelo, like Mac mentioned before, guys, was rated the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, consensus-wise. Now he lost that, and Bivol wasn't really in most people's top 10. He was a little outside of that. So he's not going to take the number 1 spot. So who's that go to? Does that go to the number 2 guy, Terence Crawford, now? Because Canelo moves out of that slot. So that opens up the pay-per-view thing a little more. And we did, Rob, also, because Mac had set it up, the Spence Ugas special, that show. And after that was over, everyone was saying that's the only fight left, Spence against Crawford for both guys. Now Spence, predictably to me, is talking about fighting Keith Thurman, having another fight in the interim. And I'm not optimistic that fight's going to take place. But I know I'm talking a lot. Just one more thing. Last night's fight, all 3 judges scored it 115, 113, 7 rounds to 5. The judges came under a lot of criticism. And I wrote a story last year called Judging Canelo, where it was a research piece, the way the judges have favored him his whole career. And I detailed every specific fight. Last night, most people, like I said, didn't feel it was that close. But what was interesting, and this is a rarity in boxing, guys, all 3 judges scored every round the same. Every round the same. So it's hard to criticize judges who get every single round the same way.
Wow.
So anyway, I wanted Robert's thoughts because I knew it would be from a different perspective.
I wanted to fight Mayweather.
But yes, yes, you do. I mean, what will be really interesting to me with this Canelo, maybe Bivol rematch, if that happens, there's another fight coming up with 2 of the light heavyweight champions are going at it, Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr. So if whoever wins that fight, Beterbiev is going to be favored. I'm picking Joe Smith Jr., but Beterbiev will be favored. That was supposed to be the next fight. Was supposed to be Canelo going up against the winner of that. Well, that's been changed now. So Bivol has kind of thrown a monkey wrench in Canelo's quest to kind of go up against the real light heavyweight champion, or I should say the one everybody feels or takes notice is the real light heavyweight champion, which is Arthur Beterbiev. So that's interesting, and that's enough about that. So the Raiders, Robert, the latest team to be put under blast for a hostile workplace environment. They fired the head of operations, Dan Ventrelli, after he sends the reports to the NFL because Raiders owner Davis didn't take any action. What do you think is going to happen here, Robert?
According to Mike Florio, he's got a legal background. The pro football talk. He's saying that the Raiders are going to push to put this in an air quote kangaroo court where none of this is going to go public about these allegations. Mark Davis was saying this guy was the interim president. He was not the actual president. And, you got to think about the Raiders. Things were going really well. I mean, they re-signed Derek Carr. They've got Josh McDaniels there. They had the successful move. Now, this guy's been with the organization for quite some time. He was a big part of moving from Oakland to Vegas. And I also was reading that Davis is not like his dad, not a micromanager, wanting to change the game plan midweek. So this is a big blow for all the good momentum that they've had. And I'm curious to see how it's going to play out if what Mike Florio said is going to be true. But this is not, Congress or anything investigating. We'll see if all this goes public or not.
Do you think there's any chance that if it doesn't go forward, because now we're starting to go multiple teams, Robert? The Congress got a little involved with the commandos there. I mean, if Davis is coming out and saying this is not untrue and he fires him, I mean, isn't that maybe civil action for Ventrelli that he could take against the Raiders if it is true?
Yeah, and I think there's been hints that he's talking to air quote cancel the fact that he's already came out about this. It's like he saw this coming. As soon as my understanding from what I've read is Mark Davis poo-pooed this, and then he went to the NFL. So, yeah, he's probably going to sue Davis, and it all remains to be seen at this point.
And let's not jump to conclusions, guys. This also could possibly, and I'm not saying it is, be a case of a disgruntled employee, someone who got fired from their position. Now they're lashing out, they're making accusations. Anyone can make accusations. So far, we don't know what went on behind the scenes, if anything. I'm sure you guys have been in positions where you see someone who's employed, they're constantly complaining about management no matter what, and then they get let go, they want to sue, and everyone's on the outside tends to jump on the bandwagon and believe it's true. It might be in this case, but then again, there might be nothing to it as well.
Mike Mayock was let go, John Gruden. So this could have something to do with that. Josh McDaniels coming in. That could be some hidden agenda, not meshing of personalities, something like that.
I don't know about Rich Bisaccia getting replaced by Josh McDaniel. That would seem to be a coaching decision because Bisaccia was an interim coach technically, even though he did a really good job. Mike Mayock, why was he let go? I guess, I don't know. The Raiders haven't been doing that well drafting guys recently too. They had a little, some problems. So I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing to me, as Robert brought up, is relationships, right? Because to me, nobody thinks about relationships when it comes to front office, players and coaches and stuff. We all think about, well, this guy's a great scouting guy, and this guy's tough, and this guy's a player's coach. And listen, a lot has to do with the relationships from people coming on board, the newer people, to the older people leaving. And I think just like a marriage or just like a friendship, things sour. And And no matter what you do, and then as Jack says, hey, listen, the best information you can have is a former disgruntled employee, right? Because he has nothing to lose now.
Yeah.
So, if I'm not worried about getting fired anymore, which to me, I think the order was he went to the NFL, then got fired. I'm not sure, but that's what I think I read. If that's so, then of course he's going to open up a little bit more about it. If I'm worried about I'm making $200,000 a year, and if I open my mouth, I'm fired. Of course, I'm probably not going to say anything, or I'm be very, very careful about what I say. But once I leave, yeah, whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
but Rob, don't you think there has to be accountability? I'm asking you. Like in the case of Hugh Jackson, he originally accused the Cleveland Browns of wanting him to tank and lose games when he was the head coach. Then he started walking back the comments, and then the NFL had an investigation. They haven't found anything to it, but he was 0-16.
Yeah.
And he didn't deliberately go 0-16. No coach in their right mind is going to lose games because then they're going to lose their job. They're going to want to win games. So don't you think there should be accountability if someone has made a false accusation? We keep saying, well, if we find out what they're saying is true, the owner should have to lose his team or this or that. What about the person making the accusation that was totally false?
Right. I mean, look at this crazy Hollywood situation with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, where you've got suing and then you've got counter suing. That would be interesting to see. One of the owners look at the Stephen Ross situation, Brian Flores, counter sue for reputation. Maybe they think our way of getting back is maybe blackballing this coach or something like that. Of course, now Flores is working with Pittsburgh. That would be interesting to see that. I guess maybe they think since we're rich and billionaires, that it would look bad public relations wise. But I don't know. That something like that, I may think about doing a counter suit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, you can't just come out and say stuff because you're mad, right? You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, even if somebody said, well, I mean, listen, we're 0-12. Who cares if we lose the next 4 games? That's not telling somebody to go out and lose, right? I mean, I guess you could take things either way. So let's get to a little bit about the quarterbacks on a bubble, Robert.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize how many quarterbacks this year are pretty much playing for their lives. We know about Daniel Jones, Wentz. I think this is his last go round. Darnold, Locke's going to get a shot. Tannehill with Tennessee. I mean, if he don't perform well this year, you could see him be gone. Hurts, Tua, Trubisky, Goff. I mean, there's so many of them. What do you think? What quarterbacks do you think will survive this year, Robert, first?
My guess is if I were odds maker, I would probably put Tua because of the offensive-minded head coach, all the money they've spent on Tyreek Hill, the running game. They're probably going to be more successful. My guess is they'll probably make the playoffs as a wild card, may push for that division. If Tua can stay healthy, I mean, he's pretty accurate at times, guys. I don't want to be too hard on the guy. He's not as athletic as some of the other quarterbacks are in this league that can get out, like a Josh Allen, for instance, in the same division. So Tua would be my favorite. Possibly now, listen, Jared Goff has been to the Super Bowl. They made a big they've had a good off season. They drafted Jameis Winston, what's his name, Williams out of Alabama. We talked about Amon St. Brown, USC wide receiver, 4th round pick, got at 900 yards, really bust out on the scene. Maybe Detroit keeps Jared Goff for another year. Looks like, they didn't go crazy with quarterback acquisition. So those two are my favorites. As far as Jones and the others, even Tannehill, I think this is probably his last year with Tennessee here out of Nashville. Not unless they win the Super Bowl.
What I'd like you to do, Rob, this is a great idea.
Yeah.
I'd like the Robert Butler listing of odds, which quarterback, not counting an injury, strictly based on performance, not injury, is most likely to lose his job. You list every NFL quarterback. Obviously, based on performance, Patrick Mahomes would be listed like 600 to 1. He's not about to lose his job.
He'd be 32nd.
but you kind of wonder between the Carson Wentz's, the Drew Locks, Marcus Mariota, Daniel Jones, who's going to lose their job first, strictly based on performance?
Oh, it's got to be Drew Lock. I was never sold on Drew Lock. I've never seen a good game.
They don't have a backup, really. They have Geno Smith. I think Washington. I think Carson Wentz after maybe 5 games, because they could go back to Tyler Heineke or someone like that. They have someone more likely to slip in there.
So Robert, here's a question for you. I mean, a lot of it has to do with what team you play on, what the system is, and again, relationships.
Yeah.
What teams you think would benefit? Now, we just talked about a lot of quarterbacks from a straight up trade from one team to another. For example, Daniel Jones gets traded to Tennessee Titans for Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Any one of those kind of things. Do you think any one of those possible quarterbacks are in a bubble, that kind of trade could help the other team?
I don't really think so, but there will be a team that try it. Somebody's going to go after Jimmy Garoppolo, guys, my guess. Well, I think once he starts throwing in July, I think that could be a late trade, something like that. After Jimmy, maybe Atlanta or somebody, I don't know. But these guys right here, I just don't see it. It's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to make this big explosion. I don't think Sam Darnold's going to put anybody over the top. I look at a guy like Jalen Hurts. We're going to find out that he's A.J. Brown is such a big acquisition for them. He's not going to cut it there in Philadelphia, my prediction. Could be wrong, been wrong before. I was wrong about Lamar Jackson. I thought they would be done with him, but I just think he's going to be one of the first. And mind you guys, next year, I was looking at the mock drafts for next year. C.J. Stroud from Ohio State is considered to be a bigger prospect than the Alabama quarterback, Bryce. And I thought that he was going to be the number 1 guy. He looks good. He kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson a little bit. And he's going to get better, young out of Alabama. And Stroud out of Ohio State's even rated higher than him. This is a much bigger draft than that draft, much deeper as far as quarterbacks are concerned. A lot of people's looking at, particularly Seattle. I think Seattle's going to win like 3 or 4 games, guys.
I'm with you.
They're going to get the number 1 pick, my prediction.
Rob, any word on Baker Mayfield? Is he going to be picked up by a team? What do you predict is going to be with him this season? Will he play? Will he be with Cleveland? Will he be with another team? Or just sit out the year?
I think he'll get cut at some point this summer. And as I really do, like we talked about last week, guys, I think the owners are ticked off at the Cleveland Browns for giving Deshaun Watson that $232 guaranteed. The owner of the, what's his name, Biscotti or whatever, of the Ravens publicly said something about it. So I think somebody's going to pick him up, maybe Seattle, maybe Atlanta, maybe Carolina. The usual suspects will go after a Baker Mayfield to come in and, air quote, compete for a starting job. And who knows, maybe Matt Ryan is long in the tooth, guys. He may get hurt. Now, he may not fit their culture per se, but teams, when injuries happen, teams get desperate. So keep that in mind, those teams for Baker Mayfield.
The great points.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. We'll go to more on Embiid with Pags, of course, with the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah. But I want to get your thoughts on Embiid. I mean, if he didn't play last night, I can almost guarantee the Heat goes up 3-0. He comes in.
Yeah.
What a warrior. I mean, this guy, I had a feeling he was going to play. And what are your thoughts on Embiid compared to the rest of the players in the NBA, Robert? What do you think he fits in? Is he just one of the top 5? Is he a top 3? Is his overall game better than anybody out there?
Well, I think you got to put top 5, top 7. He guy's got a lot of heart. He's been banged up with injury, got that crazy mask on. He seems like a man that's on a mission. That is a good story. That the Embiid coming back is a good storyline. They were 0-3 against Toronto in the regular season, and we see how well they played against Toronto in the playoffs. They were looked at going down 0-3 in this game, and they win by 20 points. Today is going to be a huge game. I mean, that is a huge game tonight against Miami. That being said, they're 2-5 against Miami. That remains to be seen. I think Miami probably still wins this series, but I do think he's going to win the MVP. And I as far as long term, I don't think he's going to be the best player. I mean, you saw what Giannis did yesterday. We know about Embiid's injury history going all the way back to Kansas. And I think he's going to come up short, but he is a good story to follow in the NBA playoffs this year in particular. I don't know what Philadelphia is going to do in the offseason. If and when I think that Philadelphia will probably lose this series.
So, Rob, you're basically saying the two best players, correct me if I'm wrong, in the NBA are Giannis and Embiid.
No, I think he's top 5, top set. Now, Joker, I would probably put Joker above Embiid. You know,
Who would you say is the best player in the NBA?
Oh, Giannis. I think Giannis.
I kind of lean towards there. But let
You
me
saw
ask you
yesterday-
this.
you
Did
couldn't
the
stop
old
him
war
yesterday.
horse give up necessarily LeBron, give up that title? Look what he had to play with around him this year.
Yeah. LeBron, if you watch a lot of LeBron games, he's in spurts now. He's been injured the last couple of years. He's on the back end of his career. LeBron is a great story as far as consistency and fitness. He's almost second to none as far as durability, but we're all human. He's been hurt last year. He was hurt the year before. Hey, he's almost 40. You know,
Heck yeah. I agree. One quick question for you, Robert.
that's 100 years in dog years.
Yes. one quick question for you. What's
Yeah.
going on with the Cincinnati Reds? I mean, they won last night, but I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of the worst starts in the history of baseball. Cincinnati, a couple of years ago, they were talking about them going to the playoffs and the World Series. And now, what is going on over there?
Well, they're tanking according to I don't know, Jack, if you heard this writer's name, Rick Bazocic.
No.
It's kind of a mouthful. Used to write for Sports Illustrated, writes for DRB.com. He says they're basically tanking, and he did bring up the fact they've got a third payroll of the Dodgers. But I'll combat that with that their payroll's higher than Tampa and Oakland's payroll. So they're going to have to go out and get better scouts. Guys, they're on the pace to have the worst record in the history of Major League Baseball by a long shot, according to
That's
this
a good
article.
odds, too. Will they have the worst record, or will we? You know, Baltimore, who you'd think would be in contention for the worst record, actually has a good farm system, good young players, and they're going to get better. So
Now they've been
I
saying
don't know.
about
that's a great baseball town, Cincinnati. They deserve better than what
They
they're
do.
getting.
They definitely do.
And I want to bring this up. The owner, someone asked him the question, well, would you sell the team? He says, if I sell the team, the new owner would take it to a better baseball city.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Can you guys believe that?
I don't
Yes.
know any better baseball cities out there than you
Well,
can find in
what he
Cincinnati.
means by a better baseball city is somebody that will build him a beautiful new stadium. That's what he means. That's what I think he means, because there's sure not a better baseball city around in Cincinnati. So that's crazy. So, folks, we'll let Robert go. Check for Robert and his sports watch van as he gets the quickest updates on the air. He has a great show, Sports Scope with a K. Check it out. Robert's all over the biggest highlights, the biggest news, and has great commentary. Whether you agree or not, he keeps you thinking. So as long as he keeps you thinking.
Well, I usually agree with Rob. I agree with him 97% of the
too.
time. I mean, I learn about 50% of my new stuff he comes up with. But Bivol against Mayweather, I had to call him out on that
But
one.
listen.
The general
Mayweather-
public wants that fight, Jack.
They would buy it. They would buy it. I agree with you. You got me there.
It's,
They would
it's
buy it.
trending, guys. It's trending.
They
Didn't
would buy
Mayweather,
it. Okay.
didn't Mayweather fight the Big Show?
Well, he broke the Big Show's nose. I don't
There
think
you
the
go.
Big Show
Well, that's
expected
probably
that.
wrestling, but Mayweather, if the money's right, Mayweather would do it.
Yeah, he might.
Oh, yeah.
might.
It's a
200
real
million.
fight. Listen, guys, I don't know how Mayweather went through a few $100 million, needs the money. I don't
you know.
understand.
Lavish lifestyle.
There you go. There you go. All right, Robert, you have a great Sunday. Thanks for coming in as you always do. We love
Happy
having you.
Mother's Day. Have a good Sunday, guys.
Take
Take
care,
care.
Rob.
So Robert Butler, Sports Scope, always enjoy having him on. He's always all over everything. He is
You listen, he is right about Mayweather Bivol. It makes no sense to me, but he is correct that people would tune in, they would get it, and it is a big thing to them.
Of course they would, Jack. You know how people are. People want to see certain people, right? I mean, it's sort of like that bad TV series you see, but that one actor, people would keep tuning in for that. So, folks, we're going to take our first break. On the other side, we're supposed to have Jamie Paggs, the Philly sports guy, in. I've been working him to death, Jack. He's on every game now. With
Overworking him, Mac. He's going to
know.
wind up getting burned out.
Philly guy is like me, Jack.
You're overworking him. It's the way Gene Mock did with the Philly bullpen in the Philly starters in the '64 season. They had a 6-game lead with 10 games to play, the Phillies, to get to the World Series, and blew a 6-game lead with 10 to play because Gene Mock kept pitching Jim Bunning and Chris Short on 2 days rest.
Wow. So there you go. So I didn't overwork him, Jack. He's backstage right now as he comes to the Philly sports guy defense, saying that I'm like a manager who's working a team, 2 hard pitchers, and I'm going to run through the Philly sports guy, and he's not going to be able to perform, and we'll lose the World Series. So we'll have the Philly guy back with his response to not winning the World Series right after these messages, folks. We'll be right back.
You worked too hard, you ate too much, the cheesecake made you greedy, but your aching gut and stomach hear this message from old Speedy. Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Those Speedy bubbles relieve your upset stomach and headache fast. For acid indigestion alone, Alka-Seltzer Gold. Oh, what a relief it is. What a relief.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Joe's presents Chester Cheetah. I'm Chester Cheetah. I'm just a cool dude in a loose mood. Until I see those Cheetos. Then my cool turns to drool. My style and ease surrender to my urge for the snack that goes crunch. It's not easy being cheesy. Cheetos cheese-flavored snack. Cheese that goes crunch.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
I heard you want to be a frito bandido like me. You do? Then you must sing the bandido song. Let's sing together. You just follow the bouncing Fritos corn chips bag. Ay, 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 ay. I am the frito bandido, baby. I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I am the frito bandito. Give me Fritos corn chips and I'll be your friend. The Frito Bandito you must not offend. Now, boys and girls, you are Frito Banditos too. You sing the Frito Bandito song, and you loco for crunchy Fritos corn chips. That's nice. Munch, munch, munchy, munchy Fritos corn chips.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Mac and Jack and Jim This Week in Sports Show. We're on live every Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. Jim couldn't join us today because of a birthday party / Mother's Day party for his 87-year-old mom. Him and his family are there right now celebrating, and if they are listening, happy birthday and happy Mother's Day, Mom. So they're probably not listening.
Mac, do you really think Jim is listening in on us now with his family? They're there to celebrate. Do you think they're sitting down? Oh, let's put on the Mac and Jack, and Jim This Week in Sports. They made the trip across the country to see the mom and to get the family together. I don't think they're sitting and watching us now.
Well, Jim could be saying, hey, Mom, this is what I do on Sundays, right? So these are the two ding dongs I hang out with on Sunday morning every Sunday. So, it's possible just out of curiosity alone. You never know. So let's bring up the Philly sports guys. One of my best friends off the air, Jamie Pags. He's an incredible job when he's not dressed up and yelling like a madman and reviewing all sports. And of course, if you want to know anything about Philly sports, this is the guy that you want to talk to, Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy. Let me bring him up and let's see if I can find his banner too. What's going on, Pags?
Good morning. See, now if he wasn't tuned in, he is right now.
Right.
He was here to watch me, not necessarily YouTube, but definitely watch me.
Exactly. Pags, I agree with that. So
you know what? It's funny when now after listening to those commercials without seeing them, I don't know if it's ever the same.
I know, but I gave you a good lead in, Pags. The worst collapse in Philadelphia sports history, the 64 Philadelphia Phillies, who blew a 6-game lead with 10 games to play. Imagine had social media been in effect during that time.
Yeah, it kind of would have been like the Mets in 2007, right?
7-game lead with 17 to play. Not quite as bad, but it's in the same league.
In that same ballpark, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
Social media was around then. So
yes, it was. Pags, I want to thank you first of all for filling in yesterday for me. A little hung up, and I'm glad you did it. You did a tremendous job, you, Jack, and Dr. Paul. Really did a good job on the show, as I knew you would. So thanks for that. Happy Mother's Day to your mom, if she's still around. If she's not up in heaven, happy Mother's Day to her. You know what I mean? So
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, I've lost both my grandmother and my mother. So, that is what it is. But I do have a mother of my children, and I will make sure to pass that on to her.
Very good, very good. So, Pags, the biggest story in Philadelphia right now is the 76ers, right? Down 2-0. And B comes in with his mask, shuts down the middle, rebounds like he's supposed to the defense. There's no more put back ins, offensive rebounds. There's no more just give it to the guy and let him do a layup. That's all done. And even made, I think it was 18, 19 points he scored, half being able to see. I mean, of course, his presence out there picked the whole 76ers team up. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the Philadelphia 76ers and how they always seem to be one player away. I mean, Simmons and Embiid, and you don't have that third guy. And now you got, I think Maxey would be your number 2 guy right now at this time. Harden comes over, but he's not the same James Harden. And, without Embiid there, I think you guys would be down 3-0, Pags.
I'd agree with that. That without Embiid. However, interestingly enough, I thought that game 2, had Embiid just been there on the court, that game would have been a lot different. And I think you saw that in game 3. I don't think Embiid played MVP at all. You know what I mean? He just happened to be on the court. And him being on the court commands so much attention. Is it Adebayo who he was neutralized, completely neutralized, where he was running amok beforehand. And they only scored like 79 points. That was the worst output, second worst output ever in their history. There's a lot to be said for that. You know what I mean? Do I think that that's going to happen today? That's to be seen. I don't think it's going to be such a low-scoring game. I feel that the Sixers are going to have to score more points. They're going to have to start shooting a little bit better. But I like the fact that there wasn't those second and third chances. The offensive rebounds were killing the Sixers in the first 2 games, where now I feel that just goes away with Embiid, because now you could dedicate more people for under the basket, because Embiid's usually going to be out, covering whoever it is. And it's not like I said, you actually have somebody who's going to be able to carry his share of the water, as I like to say.
Yeah, last game, James Harden came out with a renewed energy. He really was enthusiastic, seemed to be playing hard on defense. But again, and he got into foul trouble early, and he just had an ordinary game. Maybe it's time to change up our expectations of James Harden and accept he's no longer the superstar that the Sixers thought they might be getting, that he's just a very good player. Let him perform as a very good piece of that team and take it from there. I think there's a bit of a reliance on the duo of Embiid and Harden. Obviously, the Sixers have to rely heavily on Embiid, because if they don't, they'll go only as far as Embiid takes them at the end of the day. But with James Harden, maybe we should lower expectations and look at him for the player he is now, not for the player he was. And he's a very good player right now. He's just not a superstar anymore.
Well, and so I feel like the expectations on Harden to return to form of when he was 26 years old was unrealistic to begin with. I mean, he's been a great player throughout the years, and obviously over the last 2-3 years, even he's been, his game is lessened, and that doesn't, when you think about that, if it was me playing basketball and my game lessened, you wouldn't notice because I still stink. But he was great. You know what I mean? So he was going from great to good. And I think that, I think that when he got here, those first couple of games where it was, hey, first off, he came in rested for, a month. And then the first 4 games he played was out of his mind, because he's got to play with a new team and it was a new look. And all of a sudden you had to figure out how to play this team because there was a whole new aspect to them. Now Well, tape's been out. You've learned how to play against them. And he's reverted back to kind of how he played with the Nets, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's just who he is as a player now. Is there going to be spurts of brilliance? Probably. Is it going to be an every night type of situation? Absolutely not, because he's just not built that way anymore. He's 32 years old. The guy likes to go out and party a little bit, and eventually that starts to take a toll. And ultimately, all he needs to do is to be able to get, I think he needs to score somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 points a game. Get people in a little bit of foul trouble where, driving the lane and getting fouls, and feeding both Maxey and Embiid and sometimes Harris in the mix. And I think that's all you really need from him. Do the Sixers need another player after that? Maybe, you know what I mean? I guess we're going to find out next year. Obviously, there's rumors that he is going to accept his 5th-year option for the $47 million, which means that he's going to be here at least one more year in Philadelphia, which I like. I prefer that he only take that option and they have to wait another year before they give him a contract, because I do not want to see him get the max. I don't feel he's worth it. No. But I do believe that, do another year. Give us then, if you want to be here, give us a little bit of a hometown discount then. You know what I mean? Let's get a championship. If it becomes more a matter of winning the rings, and the ring is going to solidify you as a Hall of Famer, and as, it satisfies the child in you where, when you were 8 years old and you were, counting down in your own backyard saying 5, 4, 3, and you're throwing that shot up, 2, 1, we win the championship. You know what I mean? Those are the types of things that you dream about and you daydream and you play about when you're a youth. When you get older, you forget about those times a little bit, but ultimately they're still there. And I feel that the ring solves those problems. And if they don't get it this year, there is still that thought process that you want to get it. And
well, Pags, I'm looking at the 76ers, and a lot of people said, well, Miami just shot terrible last night. They did. Their percentage was way down. But there's a lot bigger of a difference when you have to shoot to win as opposed shoot because you want to shoot, right? I mean, if you're ahead and you're calm and you know that you're shooting not to lose, you're just shooting to win. It's a lot different when the pressure is on you. So I don't expect Miami to have a terrible shooting game this next game. I expect Embiid to play a little bit better. I just don't know still if they can beat Miami with the way Embiid is, Pags, to be honest with you.
I don't think Miami's played that well at all. I'll be honest. I felt like even Embiid's presence in game 1 and game 2 could have won those games for the Sixers. Now, again, I may be talking out of turn. Obviously, both of those games wound up double-digit losses, but those double-digit losses really came about in the last 5 minutes of the game when the Sixers were really trying to force shots to get closer, and they never were able to make them. Where the Heat, was in the lead the entire way from the first basket scored all the way to the end of the game. Both the game 1 and 2, the Heat were ahead. Obviously, that was different in game 3, and I expect that today is going to be a little bit different. It's probably going to be today is really the first game of this series. I feel for real, where Miami needs the win because they need to go up 3-1 before they go back home. And I feel that the Sixers need this win to tie it back up and make it a 3-game series.
Pags,
And
let me just cut in because we're talking about Harden. Would the Sixers have been better off? And no one asked this question if they didn't make the deal for Harden and decided let Ben Simmons sit out the year. We got Curry and we got Drummond. If Curry and Drummond was with the Sixers now instead of James Harden, would the Sixers have a better chance of winning an NBA title this year?
Good question.
I don't know about winning the NBA title.
Beating Miami.
Winning this series, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and I feel that Drummond would have made the biggest difference in game 1 and game 2. Without Embiid, Drummond would have it would have been much different games. The second and third looks that Miami was getting on the offensive board would have never have happened. And that's the biggest thing. And I tell you, I think both of them are going to be back next year. I mean, you already see Curry in the stands. You are, and Drummond has already let it known that he does not want to stay with Brooklyn, and that I think
Curry was at the stands in the Sixer game.
Yes, he was.
But Doc Rivers is his father-in-law, so maybe.
But I don't know. I see. I think that
it's true.
If and I don't know what's going on with Doc. I mean, I like I said, I feel that it might be possible that he's not here, especially if they lose this series. But I think that the fact that they traded Curry away, if by something was to happen with Doc, I don't think that would deter Curry from wanting to be here. It's your father-in-law. Yeah, I don't know if you're not necessarily always chummy with your father-in-law. I know that they got basketball and stuff, but
Mac, imagine this. The Phillies continue to lose, and they're dreadful, and the Sixers lose the next couple of games, and they call Pags in, and they say, Pags, you can only keep one of these coaches, but they're coaching the next 5 years, either Girardi or Doc Rivers. One of them one stays the next 5 years. Who does Pags have stay?
I don't make that decision.
Pags gives up being a Philly fan. He throws in the towel.
Yeah, I am not going to make that decision.
Pags, let's talk a little bit about the Phillies. They got a doubleheader with the Mets today. They've lost 3 out of the 4 to the Mets. What happens today? Do they sweep the Mets, or they split, or they get swept? What's going to happen today?
I wish I knew. See, the hardest part about this is that historic loss, and I can only call it a historic loss because when you break a streak of 326 games in a row where a team has won in the 9th inning when they've been up by 6 runs, and all of a sudden that streak is done, that does a couple of things. I think for the team that won, it has the potential to possibly propel them to just great things, because now you never feel like you're out of it. This is your division rival, and you just came back and won that game. I would really say that the Mets didn't necessarily win it as much as the Phillies lost it. I feel like between Girardi's, bringing the pitchers in that just got beaten up by the Mets the last time they faced, literally you putting them back in the same position, and now all of a sudden they just gave it up. I feel that it was more of their bad pitching than Mets' timely hitting. However, you needed both to make it happen. You don't just score 7 runs, luckily. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I feel that the pitching probably was more of the reason than the hitting. That being said, when you're the Mets, well, that could be a springboard to having a season where you're, winning 105 to 110 games, which is really, really difficult to do.
Well, Pags, we all knew the biggest problem you guys had coming in this year was pitching, especially in the relief area. We knew that the Phillies chose to go with power to outslug teams, and it works sometimes, but it's sure not going to work all the time.
Well, and the bullpen's been a lot better than it was last year. It just, of course,
Girardi credit for how he's handled the bullpen.
Well, but then again, I give him, the loss because of the way he handled it last game. Familia had 10 pitches, could have gone back out there. His spot doesn't come up in the lineup anymore. So it's not like you have to worry about
the pitcher he was years ago with the Mets. He went to Oakland, back to the Mets.
Doesn't matter. Even when the Mets announcers say we've never seen him get out there.
I agree with Pags 100%. I am so tired of these guys just pulling people because an inning or it's 10. I'm so tired of that. What happened to the setup guy? What happened to this guy that pitches 2-3 innings and he holds the team in check, and then the closer comes in? They don't do that no more. So if you had somebody like a Mario Rivera pitching today. He was pitching with the Yankees today, and he was their setup guy. How many innings would they let Mario pitch? 1 inning? So, I mean, I agree with what Pags is saying for the most part. I mean, listen, if the pitcher's having a bad time, yank him. Yeah, definitely. But what happens to the setup guy that we used to have that would come in and pitch?
Like Jeff Nelson with the Yankees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. What happened to that? We're just going to pull pitchers every inning. I mean, to me, that makes no sense. You got to have a feel for how the pitcher is pitching. If Familia's mowing him down, let him go again until something happens. I mean, that just makes sense to me. I don't get this whole.
If we're going by pitch counts, give him 25 pitches. You know what I mean? He went through 10. He went through 10.
Yeah, I mean, Pags, listen, if he's pitching really well, let him pitch. I'm so tired of these people just pulling people out because.
Well, let's think about and let's go back even a little bit further. For the last 2 starting pitchers that the Phillies have pitched 14 and 2/3 inning, gave up like 7 hits and 1 run, and they lost both games.
Yeah, come on, man.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And like 78 pitches, and he pulled Wheeler, Wheeler, and then 7 and 2/3 innings, and I think he was barely at 100. I don't know that he was even at 100. I mean, if you gave him the rest of the 8th inning, you know what I mean? Then you could have brought Familia in the 9th. I mean, there was
This is what they'll tell you, Pax. Well, if he has a rough inning, then he's way up over 120. If the guy's pitching well, leave him. It just makes sense to me. I don't want to hear the third time through the lineup either. I've seen pitchers go through their third time through a lineup and keep mowing them down because their stuff is that good. They adjust. Right. Pitchers adjust as much as hitters do, right? If I'm throwing fastballs at 98 miles an hour and I'm striking people up, then maybe the third time through the inning, I throw a little bit more breaking balls. Those are real pitchers, right? They know what's going on. So I don't want to hear all that too. I get so tired in general of all this nonsense. And it comes back to bite people more than they think. And I just don't get it anymore. So
managers
I agree.
Scared because of the analytics situation. They know the GMs.
See, and there's that word. There's the word that really is tied to Girardi that he overdoes, we believe. Yeah, and again, who am I to say that I'm wrong? Because obviously he's been in baseball a lot longer than I have. He gets paid millions of dollars to coach a team, and I can be a Monday morning quarterback.
Right.
That being said, his analytics, when analytics take over your managing style completely, you're not letting the game itself actually dictate. You are just worrying about what the numbers are saying.
Let me give you a great example, all right? And this has to do with batters. When Bucky Dent came up and there was 2 men on, the right thing to do, and of course I know their bench was hurting there, the right thing to do would be pull Bucky Dent and put a better hitter in, right?
Against the Red Sox Yankee 1-game playoff, you mean?
Bucky Dent hits the 3-run home run. Now, he only hit like 20 home runs his whole career. Something ridiculous. But this is what I'm talking about. The guy you put in might have grounded out. I mean, you don't know until something happens. And to me, you got to trust in your players. And to me, what this does is tell that relief pitcher or tell that starter, hey, I got no faith in you. And if that's the message you're sending, I don't care if you pitch. And, you know, a lot of these guys will say, oh, yeah. I know deep down they're thinking, listen, man, I was mowing through this damn team, and you pulled me out and we lost the game because you have no faith in me anymore. And to me, that means more to the players than the analytics could ever matter, Pax.
And here's the other thing. How do you go into the locker room? I mean, obviously, I mean, I've never played professional, so it's hard for me to determine and really fathom what that locker room is like. After you were up 7-1 going into the 9th inning, and your pitcher was pitching amazing. You're the relief pitcher that comes in right after him, mows them all down, and now you just lost a game against a division rival, where you now went down 7 games. We're in the first month of the season, and you're down 7 games from the division lead.
Yeah.
Now, do I think the Mets will come back down to earth? I think so. I mean, I don't think that they're really built. They don't have all the hitting the way that they need to really win. I think 102 games, but attitude is everything.
Yeah.
Attitude is everything. And now, like I said, that win could propel them in a way. Yeah. And we've had now close to 72 hours to stew on this.
Pags, but in all fairness, when you have a 6-run lead, you do have a novelty in practically every case to think, okay, like Familia, for example, I might want to use him in a day or two, so I don't want him to throw additional pitches. We have this game in hand. We're up 6 runs. No matter who we come in with, we should be in good shape with a 6-run lead. So in fairness to Girardi, I don't think he played it wrong because let's face it, you have a 6-run lead. It's not like the playoffs, the deciding game where you're thinking ahead to the World Series.
I could almost agree with you there, except for the fact that when it turns 7-3, you have to have a pitcher up and moving, and you should have 2 pitchers up and moving. And when it becomes 7-5, then you got to really consider, it's like, okay, maybe this pitcher doesn't have it either, and I got to start bringing in somebody else. I mean, both of those pitchers, it was less than 30 pitches.
But Pags,
for 7 runs.
You should praise Girardi. He was a step ahead of the manager before him. Gabe Kapler went out to the mound and he called in for his reliever, and there was no one warming up in the bullpen to come in and relieve.
Well, hey, listen, I will always say that Girardi is probably better than Kapler. However, Kapler was a rookie coach. Kapler was a rookie coach, and then all of a sudden he wins a whole bunch of games, but didn't win in the playoffs either. So ultimately, there is, I can give a little bit of kudos to Kapler for when he went out to San Francisco, but not much. He's not doing so well.
7 games, you give him a lot of kudos. Come on,
right? But they also lost in the first round of the playoffs.
But they lost to the Dodgers on a controversial called strike at the end. It was like they lost a nail biter in 5 games, best out of 5 to the Dodgers. So
and that's hey, that is what it is. It's not my fault. They had home field advantage during that, did they not?
It's not my fault. Nobody blaming you, buddy. Folks, the Philly sports guy is incredible. Knows everything about Philly sports. Is all over all his teams. A true fan and can dissect the Philly sports, and he's honest too. That's what I like about Pags. He may give a little bit of a nudge to the Phillies and the Philadelphia teams, but when it comes down to it, he's honest about what's going on. So,
he doesn't like contract extensions.
No, not at all, and I don't blame him. Neither do I. So, Pags, I want to thank you again for taking over yesterday. Thank you for coming in. We always enjoy having you, and of course, I'll be talking to you later, my friend.
All right, guys. Happy Mother's Day. I'm surprised there was no Flyers talk.
No, not
first thing he did when he got on yesterday was talk about the Flyers. He mentioned the Flyers, so I figured I had to bring him up so that he.
Say this 1 year ago in Philly sports, the 4 major sports. I just want to say quickly, the Eagles were number 4 amongst the 4 major teams. Now they're trending to number 1 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, how about that? And you think about. I remember the days back in 1980 when all 4 teams went consecutively to the championship round. I mean, only the Phillies won that year, but all 4. Yeah, that was like the golden era of Philadelphia sports. And I feel like that's coming again really soon. We're going to be talking about that, and the Philly sports guy is going to be just wearing belt after belt after belt.
Pags,
championships.
I was ready to start singing memories for a minute there, Pags.
Exactly.
Have a great day, Pags. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Happy Mother's Day, guys.
You too. So there you go, folks. The Philly sports guy, JB Pags. Always love to have him on. And if you love Philly sports, that's who you tune into. He's got everything going on social media, Instagram, TikTok. He's all over the place. Tune into him. Check him out. As a Philly sports guy, as I said, crazy as hell. But when he knows he's on a sports show, very intricate, very detailed, great guy to have on. We'll be right back after these messages, folks.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Here comes the king, here comes the big number one. Budweiser beer, the king is second to none. Just say Budweiser, you've said it all. Here comes the king of beer, so lift your glass, let's hear the call. Budweiser beer's the one that's leading the rest. When you say Bud, and Beechwood aging makes it beer at its best. When you say Bud, one taste will tell you, so loud and clear. There's only one Budweiser beer. When you say Bud, you've said it all.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, Ann, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, isn't he?
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac, Jack, and Jim This Week in Sports show. As I said before, folks, Jim Jeffcoat is out. He's celebrating his birthday and Mother's Day with his mother, with the rest of the family. So happy Mom's Day to his mom. We're live every Sunday here, 8 to 10 a.m. with This Week in Sports. The Mac and Jack Sports Show goes on Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. We're live on Roku TV, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and some other spots that will be carrying our show later. The Dream Ride, Jack, I want to talk about a little bit real quick. Folks, the 26th through the 28th, I'm almost positive I just saw. I've been there before, and I've been there in a couple capacities. The event is awesome. I mean, what they do with these kids, they treat them like royalty for a weekend. There's so much stuff going on. That food vendors, everything's going on over there, the car shows and motorcycle shows, all to raise money for these people who are mentally challenged. So if you get a chance, it's in Farmington Polo Grounds in Connecticut, go up and check it out and check out what the kind of work they do. There's all kinds of sports, personalities there. We'll be there with Jamie Pax, the Philly sports guy this year, and helping to raise money. We are an official sponsor of them. It's a great cause that I love being part of. So anyway, folks, if you get a chance, go there. If you don't, go to dreamride.org and donate to this great cause, as they raised $3 million last year and have raised over $20 million for these mentally challenged people, and great cause. So check it out, please, if you would. A couple other things to talk about. Monday, tomorrow night, the #1 show on YouTube, Glove Fist. Now, there was a little mess up technically last week. They still destroyed it in the views. I was surprised. I thought they would lower their views. They didn't. They came back on strong. Right now, they have surpassed the #2 show that was #1, Start Spreading the News, which has become our #1 Twitter program. So, I mean, they go back and forth, both of these great shows. They're both on Monday night. Jack and Frank Latirzo on Glove Fist, and Dr. Paul and Dr. Fagan on Start Spreading the News, both Monday night on YouTube, Roku, and a couple other places too. So check them out. So, Jack, this, of course, is a part where we talk and give our opinions and talk about the biggest stories in sports. I guess I'd like to talk about the NBA first, right? I mean, we talked a little bit about the 76ers. The Grizzlies get blown out by the Warriors. Ja Morant gets hurt, 6 minutes left in the game. The Warriors 142, the Grizzlies 112. If they lose Ja Morant, Jack, is that series over?
Yeah, I would think so. But I'll tell you, the Grizzlies are playing with house money. They can lose the next 2 to Golden State, bow out losing in 5 games, and they've had a great year. Everyone's happy. I mean, it's all gravy, for now for the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, they've already exceeded expectations this year. They've taken the next step in the franchise towards a championship. Of course, if you have a chance to win it, you go for it, because you never know what could happen later on. I remember the Minnesota Timberwolves some years ago with Tom Thibodeau as their head coach. They seemed to be a team of the future. It only seemed to be a matter of time before they'd be contending for the NBA title, and then they flamed out, so you never know. Maybe that would be the case with the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies have played very well without Ja Morant. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But I think when all's said and done, Golden State is just flat out better. I know the Grizzlies grabbed the game in Golden State. It gave them a lot of hope. But yesterday's blowout by Golden State showed that the Warriors kind of restored order to the series. They kind of showed they were the better team. And even though the Grizzlies are going to fight hard to the end, I can't see them overcoming the Warriors at this point. But it's a great year for Memphis regardless. But if Golden State should lose this series, it's a big disappointment for their franchise. So there's where the differences lie.
I think the biggest wild card in this series is Jordan Poole, right? He's a new, younger guy who he put up 27 to Curry's 30. He can take over a game himself. There's a future there too with the Warriors. A lot of times these older teams, right? They run with what they got till they can't run no more. The Warriors are smart. The Warriors not only got the veterans there that can do it, the Clays and Steph and the third guy, Draymond Green. I mean, these guys are Warriors. They've been around for a while. But when you get an exciting young player like Jordan Poole coming in, Jack, that causes you to flip a little bit, right? It gives you hope for the future too. So very good job by the Warriors finding this guy, bringing him on, and him kind of coming into his own this year.
Well, let's see. Time's going to really tell how good Jordan Poole really is. He's on a nice run right now. He's obviously a talented player who's playing extremely well, but I'm a little apprehensive. I kind of just want to hold off a little bit, because when guys come out of nowhere and they're really outstanding for a while, I'm not that sure that they're going to sustain it. I'm not saying that Jordan Poole won't. I just want to wait and see a little longer. you got to keep in mind the other players around him would tend to make him maybe a little better than he actually was. If he had to burden the main part of the responsibility himself, be a true leader on that team, that, it might play out a little differently.
True. Great points. The Bucks hold off the Celtics at the end. They can't get the ball to go in the basket at the end to win that game. Giannis plays out of his mind. Tatum plays terribly. But they still only lose by one, Jack, and they had the ball at the rim. Just couldn't get it to go in. So, I mean, the Celtics are still there.
Yeah.
Can the Bucks put the Celtics away?
I think it's a 7-game series. And the Bucks being up 2-1, I think it's a little more important for them than the Celtics being up 2-1 in a sense, because Chris Middleton is out for Milwaukee. He might be back soon, but he's been out for them. Their number 2 player on the team. Some people might say it's Drew Holiday, but Chris Middleton is the consensus Robin to Giannis's Batman on that team. And Giannis he's showing why. I mean, I guess you might have to say he's the best player in the NBA now. A few weeks ago, a lot of people, myself included, may have leaned towards Kevin Durant still, but I think the events of the last few weeks and the way Giannis has really carried the Bucks show there's no better player in the NBA. We could say Jokic, we could say, Luka, we could say Steph Curry, we could say Durant, we could say a couple of more, but is there really a better player than Giannis? Is there a more impactful player for a team, let's put it that way, who impacts his team positively than Giannis does? And I would think not. I mean,
I think Giannis is a total pitcher. I'll throw Embiid in there too, right?
Embiid, right. I'm sorry. That's the oversight of the day. Obviously, if you're going to say who's the best player in the NBA, Embiid has to seriously enter the discussion. But listen, let's see what goes on in the playoffs. If Embiid could bring his team back and they beat Miami and they're making this deep playoff run, we have to consider Embiid as the number 1 guy, especially if the Celtics come back and beat the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, I mean, Giannis and Embiid are probably the 2 of the most complete players of all those you named, right? Defensively, offensively, rebounds, assists, they're all over the place, and they never stop. Their motors never stop. Go ahead, Jack.
But I will say this, Mac. You notice Embiid tends to get frustrated at times. He doesn't rip into players, doesn't rip into the coaches, but he gets very frustrated. Nothing seems to bother Giannis. He's the coolest cat. Even when the guy had trouble shooting foul shots, the fans would be mocking him. They couldn't get to him at all. I mean, he was zoned into what he had to do 100%. And he brings out the best in his teammates as well. Can you honestly say that Embiid brings out the best in his teammates? I'm not sure about that. Maybe not.
I agree.
I could say so. Absolutely.
I 100% agree with you. I think Giannis is the best in the league right now, but Embiid's close. And of course,
very close. And Embiid's in position where he could be called number 1 before the playoffs are over. If he could bring the Sixers back.
I agree with that too. So NHL, the Capitals beat the Panthers 6-1, Jack, a 2-1 lead. 6 different Capitals score, each with a goal. I mean, we expected the Panthers to go in there and take care of business, and the Capitals have different ideas. I mean, they're playing out of their minds right now.
I'm going to tell you, I was located in Florida for the winter, and I got to follow the Panthers very closely. And the feeling was that the Panthers maybe had overtaken the Tampa Bay Lightning as, a better team, the best team in Florida, maybe the best team in the NHL. The Lightning, of course, are the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And the Panthers were playing so great during the years. And what's happening to them against the Washington Capitals? I mean, it just shows us what we know every year with the Stanley Cup playoffs. Some type of surprise happens and some team that we had high expectations for could be bitterly disappointed. But with that said, Panthers are only down 2-1.
Yeah.
But you go down 3-1, obviously in very serious trouble in the best 4 out of 7. I kind of feel they're going to turn it around against the Capitals, but I never would have thought they'd be down 2-1 at this point and get blown out of game 3.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me. Avalanche, speaking of the best hockey team in the league, go up 3-0 with a 7-3 victory. Gabriel, hopefully I get this right. Landskirk with 2 goals and assists in the game. I don't know who's going to stop the Avalanche, Jack, to be honest with you. They seem to just be on a roll. And I think they could have a really good shot at winning this whole thing.
Yeah, let's wait and see on that. Obviously they're going to get by this round, and let's see who they play next round. And we always tend to have these, I don't want to say Cinderella teams, an unexpected team step up. Look at last year. The Montreal Canadiens went to the finals, and this year they had the worst team in the NHL.
True. Penguins jump out to a 4-1 in the first quarter, go to beat the Rangers 7-4. Jeff Carter and Evan Rodriguez with 2 goals apiece. The Rangers goalie had a little bit of problems last night, Jack. He's a young kid. He's going to have his problems. But all year he's been aces, right? He's been one of the reasons why the Rangers are.
Sturkin is potentially the best goalie in the NHL, arguably. The best goalie in the NHL. And he's an MVP candidate, Mac. And he just had a rough time. There were a couple of deflections, okay? Sometimes we watch a game, and even the replay doesn't show us the magnitude of a deflected puck. But the interesting thing, when they fell down 4-1, he got replaced by Gorgiev, the backup goalie. Gallant, the head coach, made that move. That was reminiscent of Tretiak being taken out of the 1980 Olympics. You won't expect that. Your franchise player, the guy who got you there, the guy who's far and away the MVP of the Rangers, got replaced. And it wasn't because of attitude. The coach wanted to give a team a spark, and it actually was working a bit. Let me ask you this, Mac, which I don't understand why hockey's changed. The Rangers had come back. They tied it up. And then the Penguins were up 5-4 with a little under 3 minutes left. And they pulled a goalie to get the extra skate up. Why do it with so much time left? I remember they used to wait until there was a minute, a little more than a minute. There's no need to pull a goalie with close to 3 minutes because maybe a team could score in the meantime. The majority of the time, we were talking about analytics before. When teams pull goalies, I'd love to see what the analytics saw because I get a feeling, Mac, it's similar to making an onside kick in football. An onside kick in football, they say the percentage is something like 1 out of 10 you're going to do it. How often are you going to score a goal when your team has an empty net? Because psychologically, you're going to have a player or two lie back anyway to kind of defend from mid-ice. Okay? And what happened, the Penguins scored on the open net, and then the Rangers left the net open, and then they scored again. But I kind of feel wait till there's about a minute, and there's an icing at the side of the ice where you have possession near the other team's goalie before you pull it, your man for an extra skate. It's not done anymore like that. That's how it used to be done.
It makes sense to me, Jack. You got one extra offensive guy, but you got nobody in goal. And you could just flick it out there. If it gets through everybody, it's in the net if you got some kind of aim. I agree with you. Way too early for me, too, pulling that goalie.
I got to tell you, a crazy play happened yesterday. I forgot the player's name. What happened? The Penguins had a power play. The Rangers committed. Yeah, but what happened when you're on the power play, they don't blow the whistle while you still have possession of the puck. So teams send their own goalie to the bench, and they have an extra skate until there's a stop and play. So the Penguin player has it on the Rangers side of the goal, and he flicks it along the boards to keep it in play. But it goes all the way down the ice, and his goal is empty, and it hits the post. He nearly scored for the Rangers. That would have been one of the great bloopers of, NHL playoff history. had the Penguins lost the game, had that not hit the post, the Rangers may have actually won the game.
Listen, I was watching, I think it was the Penguins Rangers, when the guy actually got the stick knocked out of his hand. He chased him from behind and tackled the guy. I've never seen that in hockey, Jack. It's probably happened before. I've never seen that before.
Wow.
So without his stick, he chases the Ranger down. I think he scored anyway, but he ended up trying to tackle a guy. I've never seen it. So that's kind of crazy too. So the Stars beat Calgary with a 4-2 win. They're up 2-1. Calgary, that's a weak division to me, Jack. The division Calgary in is probably the weakest division in hockey. If you look at regular season anyway, I think it's the weakest division in there. I think Calgary could get bumped off.
Well, Minnesota hockey guy Carter mentioned them as a potential dark horse. If any team's going to completely unexpectedly, win the Stanley Cup, and he had to pick someone really unexpected to do it, Minnesota would maybe be at the top of his list.
Right. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's get to MLB and some scores there. The Reds, they split with the Pittsburgh Pirates, 9-2, 8-5. The Dodgers win 7-0 and 6-3. The Dodgers are just.
Clayton Kershaw's been pitching well. We thought he was past his peak and that he was fading. He's pitching like the Clayton Kershaw we've known throughout his career. Magnificent.
I would not want to be a baseball team playing the Dodgers. That's just almost like unfair. The Twins won the A's nothing. Twins, and we know about the A's problems. The Twins playing pretty well. The Blue Jays split with Cleveland 8-3 and 2-8. The Astros
8-2, Mac. We don't talk backwards.
Well, I'm doing in order. So Cleveland won 8-3, but they lost 2-8. Can you tell that? Okay. Astros beat Detroit 3-2. Chicago beats Boston 3-1. I think Boston is all done, Jack. Last year I was really high on Boston. This year I wasn't so high on Boston. Just something about them this year. When I was reading last year, I read about a lot of their younger players, and because I'm from this area, so I can't help but, even though I'm not a Red Sox fan per se, I'm a Yankee fan, but I get a lot of articles on Boston, and it looks really good. Pitching staff, their young players. I said, they got a shot at really contending this year. This year, I really didn't read that. I didn't read nothing that gave me the inkling that Boston would be back up there again, and that's why I didn't say anything this year. And right now, Boston is kind of in a bad place, Jack.
I trust you, Mac, after last year, because I was the one who said, come July, the Sox are going to be cooked. They're not going to be in contention, and they made the playoffs like you had predicted. You were high on them last year, and there's a little dissension going on in Boston because Bogarts is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and he wants one of these crazy 10-year deals that he sees other players occasionally get. And the Red Sox have done their due diligence. They say 10-year deals don't work. It's bad for the team. Just look at Robertson Cano, Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
You think that the Texas Rangers, the 10-year deal for Corey Seager is going to make any sense at all? They give you $325 million. It's ridiculous. So Bogarts is probably, he wants to stay in Boston, but he knows he's probably going to be going, so he's unhappy. And you have Trevor Story, who they signed to a long-term deal in the offseason, and now the Red Sox are having second thoughts. Was that really a good deal to sign Trevor Story? They have him at second base, but if Bogarts leaves, he's going to be the shortstop. Chris Sale has been injured, hasn't been able to really come back the right way, has had setbacks. So I got to believe what you're saying. It's a bit messy in Boston. It doesn't look like they're going to make a playoff run this year.
Yeah, Enrique just came back, which will kind of help him a little bit. The Braves beat Milwaukee 3-2. Colorado beats the hell out of San Diego 8-0. The Nationals beat the Angels 7-3, and the Rays beat Seattle 8-2. I got a hot take for you, Jack. I've been thinking about this. I've been sitting there, and we know the quarterback class is nothing to really brag about this year. They may have a couple good quarterbacks end up walking out and breaking out, maybe game managers. I really believe Corral is going to have a great NFL career, Jack. What do you think about that?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking of all these quarterbacks drafted. Who is going to get the first opportunity? Now, let's not talk about Pickett. I don't think Pickett's going to start for the Steelers this year, not in the beginning. But the guys who were taken out of the first round, like Desmond Ridder, he went to the Falcons, and the Falcons have Marcus Mariota as a starter. So at some point, Ridder's going to get his chance over there. Matt Corral, he's behind Sam Darnold, but he was picked in the third round. In other words, if Darnold plays really well, his job's not going to be in danger. They'll stick it out with him. Malik Willis at Tennessee. If Ryan Tannehill's really going to have to play poorly to lose the job to Malik Willis. And, yeah, I mean, you just look at the different opportunities. Sam Howell, believe it or not, a fifth-round selection by the Washington Commanders. He might actually get an opportunity to play this year because he's behind Carson Wentz.
Awesome.
You know, unless Carson Wentz performs. If Carson Wentz doesn't perform, Sam Howell might get an amazing opportunity. Imagine that a fifth-round draft choice could be starting before his first year's out. Talk about a steal in the draft if Sam Howell's any good.
Yeah, I just mark my words, Jack. You're going to see this kid, Matt Corral, end up being
Matt Corral, taken in the third round. Yeah.
I think he's going to be really good. I just don't. I've watched some of his tape. I've looked at stuff. I think he's got some talent. So we'll see what happens.
You think he's the best guy in this class, including Kenny Pickett and the rest of the guys I mentioned?
Yes, I do.
Wow, then it's a steal. Then Carolina's addressed their quarterback issue.
And good thing they didn't pick up Baker Mayfield. These things happen for a reason, right, Jack, in life? We don't think they do. We say, it's not true. You make your own luck. Things happen. It's right place, right time, right? If the Panthers pick up Baker Mayfield, Matt Corral's not drafted by the Panthers. Sam Darnold, we know, is having problems there. Matt Corral's the one they're going to turn to, and I wouldn't be surprised by the fourth game Matt Corral is starting. So we'll see what happens. Folks, have a great day today. Have a great Sunday. We're going to get away. We'll be back on Thursday, 8 to 10 a.m. With the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Be sure tomorrow night, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, Glove Fist with Jack Hirsch and Frank Latirzo, the best boxing show streaming today. And also check out, start spreading the news. If you love the Yankees or just kind of like them, and maybe you don't even like them, you want to know what's going on with the Yankees, Dr. Paul and Dr. E.J. Fagan will give you all the information you can handle for the Yankees. So you guys have a great Sunday. Happy Mother's Day again. And Jack, tell your wife from me, Happy Mother's Day. And you guys have a great day.
Name to Linda there. All the best.